I want to get to Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki really wanted us to know, as she went on the Mixed Signals podcast on Friday, that she really had no idea that Joe Biden, her boss for years, was mentally infirm. And when she left the White House in May of 2022, he was A-OK, Skipper. He was doing just fine. She was just like shocked when he had that debate meltdown. Here's what she said in SOT 4.
I left in May of 2022, just for the facts here. And I have seen Biden once since then, when I took my daughter to the holiday party this last December after he had lost. And so I hadn't seen him in person during that period of time. I never saw that person, not a single time. And I was in the Oval Office every day that was on that debate stage. I'm not a doctor. Aging happens quite quickly. Were things that people saw during that period of time that were similar to that or would have been in a category of that? I don't know, possibly.
She never saw him in person, and she's not a doctor. She wants you to know that, Stu. That's so, and you're not a doctor, and I am a doctor and an astronaut. I'm a Juris Doctor, and I was able to diagnose him from my desk. So I just want her to know you're not one, and you were able to diagnose. I am one, and I was able to diagnose. So we've got this whole thing covered. We put together just I'm not going to play. It's just too short, but we put together a list of the many mental infirmities that we saw from Joe Biden, like the more popular ones prior to her departure. They included him slipping over and over again while trying to walk up Air Force One, getting lost on his way back to the White House, referring to Vice President Kamala Harris as president and first lady, confusing the immigration policy Title 42 with the mask mandate, losing his train of thought and slurring during key remarks. Do we have that one? Asking the team. Yeah, let's watch that one.
We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. Kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies. But these are bad guys. Is becoming
maybe it's just his
much
stutter.
More informed on the motives of some of the political players and some of the political parties.
It's not his stutter, because then we could play you the soundbite where he forgot the name of the Pentagon and Secretary of Defense. He didn't remember the word Pentagon, remember? And then he forgot the name Lloyd Austin as his defense secretary. And so we could keep going. All of that was prior to her departure. All of us saw it just on the little box that we call the TV or the computer, and we're able to see that there was a problem. But Jen Psaki is not a doctor, Stu Burguiere, so she just couldn't do it.
It's interesting to see something. You have to open your eyes. That typically, it was the type of thing that Jen didn't seem to be doing, because anyone who saw this, and you could have seen this even before the 2020. I mean, we saw elements of it in the 2020 campaign, but it certainly got worse in the White House, I suppose. The change was, dramatic from what we saw back in, 2000, let's say 8. Right, here's a guy who's running for president for, the 44th time, losing embarrassing fashion yet again. Back then. And while he was not exactly, I would say, sharp, I wouldn't say he was an impressive politician. He was, at some points, quick. He had his wits with him. That totally went away when he was in office. And it was clear to anybody who wanted to see it. You had to be in complete denial to not see this coming. Now, I mean, I was somewhat surprised at how bad that performance was in the debate. I assumed he'd muddle through it and give a solid D- and people would move on with their lives. That didn't happen. And it wound up putting us into an interesting position, Megyn, because for years and years and years and years, we were called conspiracy theorists for believing that Joe Biden had lost his mental acuity to any sustainable level. We were told that it was mean and racist and whatever else to criticize it.
Ableist and ageist.
Ableist was a big one. Yep. You were against him.
And you were anti-stutterer.
Anti-stutterer, which is an interesting accusation for anyone. And we went through that whole period. And then the debate occurred. And it became clear for them the better thing to occur was people to know about that. All of a sudden, all of the things that had built up over all of those years were now beneficial to the left. And we entered into this golden age of media for about 2 weeks, where all of a sudden they were able to get these incredible insights from source after source after source. Every journalist turned into the person from, every, Watergate movie, right? Like that person is like, they're down there, they're in the parking garage, they're getting every single hit. They were able to uncover all these amazing things in such a short period of time. We are now at the situation where we have at least 3 books that I know of, and maybe more. One from someone at The Hill, one from Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. And to be fair to Alex in particular, he really did cover this at the time. And then a third from authors combined of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and I think it's the Wall Street Journal. Are like 3 leading newspapers together. All of this is out now. All of this after the fact. And there's a good chunk of me that just wants to be angry about it and say, wait a minute, where the heck was everybody in the middle of this? Why weren't you covering this then? And I do think that is a valuable conversation to have at some point. But I also don't want to discourage this uncovering process. I really think we were in a really dangerous situation as a nation, Megyn. We were put in a position where all of our children, our parents, were in a situation where we were having a country run by someone who couldn't get through sentences. It wasn't just he got on stage and stuttered. This is a guy who obviously had lost it. This happened back in the Woodrow Wilson administration with his wife after he had a stroke. His wife was basically running the country. It seemed like Dr. Jill was running the country at some point. That's not constitutional. That's not allowed. There's potential criminal cover-up type stuff here.
Yeah.
And we focused on a lot of stuff, a lot of it very interesting. Since Republicans have gone in, I kind of wanted to see what was in the JFK files, sure. But this is right here. It's happening right now. It just affected us. And this should be a bigger focus. We should have major congressional investigations.
No, they want us to care about Signalgate. They want us.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth used Signal to discuss a lot of things. I don't care. Shut up and move on. You just spare me your faux outrage. I don't believe you. You want to bring him down because he's Trump's guy. You don't give a shit about that. If you cared about the fact that he had a Signal conversation with his wife with details that he shouldn't have shared ostensibly with his wife, then you would have cared about the fact that Jill Biden was president. You didn't care. So stop it. Take a seat. Yeah. I'm no longer listening to you, and I'm not alone.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I, first of all, can't listen to them about any of this nonsense. This is massive. This is the president of the United States who was just checked out while we were, it was a terrifying time. Who God only knows, he was micromanaging a situation between Russia and Ukraine. Think about what stopped us from World War III in that period, Megyn. Vladimir Putin's restraint and Joe Biden's competence. Those two things were the only 2 walls between us and World War III. We went through all of that period. And here's the thing. Every one of these people, they're all coming out. They're all giving their quotes now. They're all talking to these authors. I encourage it. I want it to happen. I want to know all their names. I want to know all the conversations and all the things that they say, because it should be the basis of a massive investigation. Every text they sent, they're complaining about Signal now. Every text they sent through that period should be able to be recovered by the U.S. government in an investigation that must happen.
That's right. In fact, there's no reason not to do it, especially all the messages that they exchanged on Signal, since they're so horrified by the use of Signal by a government official. That's wonderful. I'm sure you had those same reactions when you were in office and finding a way to communicate about Joe Biden's mental state. Let's just make sure, though, let's trust but verify. Listen to Psaki go on about how there was no cover up by either the media or Biden's aides.
Cover up is a very loaded term. Cover up is often like a crime, right? We're talking when people use that term.
They say it's worse than the crime.
People use that term as they relate to Watergate or the covering up of not sharing public information about a war.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing anybody of a crime.
I understand, but other people have used that term, and I think it's a bit of a dangerous term.
Well, then you shouldn't have done it. that you should have thought about that when you were, because the thing about her is it's an obvious lie that she didn't know about Biden's mental decline while she was working for him. Complete lie. I don't believe one word. But it's not like she moved into a dumpster when she left MSNBC, never to be seen again. She went to MSNBC when she left the White House. She went to MSNBC and got her own show where she could report on everything, including the fact that just 3 months later, he was calling for a dead person at an event whose memorial video he had just watched. Where's Jackie? Remember? He thought the dead people were alive and the alive people were dead. And again, during her tenure, he didn't know what the word was for Pentagon or that Lloyd Austin was his sitting SecDef. So she has nowhere to go. No wonder she's worried about the use of the term cover-up. This July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset as BRICS nations push forward with their plans. Some worry global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.